enforcement area who make mistakes. Well, we don't get rid of law enforcement. We don't say we're no longer going to protect people, the other people. We go through a process and correct what that officer did. I think the gentleman gets the gist of what I'm trying to say.
Reclaiming my time. We're not getting rid of law enforcement here. The Coast Guard will still do the safety inspections, which they are statutorily authorized to do. The Park Service is not statutorily authorized to do. They say that they have been given that authority from the Coast Guard. I don't think that's the case. So we're not getting rid of anything. What we're doing is clearing up a jurisdictional problem here.
Would the gentleman yield just for a second?
Sure.
I would hope that we could clarify this. There seems to be a misunderstanding here. I hope that we can, if my amendment doesn't prevail, that we could try to work together to clarify this before conference.
I'll guarantee there's a misunderstanding here.
Okay, well, let's try to see if we can straighten that out.
The time of the gentleman has expired, and the chair would again remind all members that they should direct their comments to the chair, not to each other. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas rise? Gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes.
There's no doubt, Mr. Young, that you are the renowned expert on Alaska. So I don't rise to that. And in fact, I come from the other open, wild state that likes their own self-determination, and they just associated you with the state of Texas. I remind my colleagues that there's water in Virginia, there's water in Massachusetts, and there's water all along. But I rise to support the gentleman's amendment because, frankly, the last time I talked to the very important Coast Guard, they're short on money. Frankly, I want the Coast Guard to be in the port of Houston doing their job as relates to protecting the coastline of America from terrorists. They are involved in that. They are not, in essence, an agency that can just expand its resources. I would just raise the question. I think the gentleman from Washington was very engaging and cooperative by saying, how can we work this out? My interpretation is, in opposing the language that's in the bill and supporting Mr. Dix, is that we have, in essence, a legislative earmark. And that means that all of us can rise up and try to solve our problems in that way. I'd like to get back to regular order. And I cite for all of you just another example. We've got a legislative earmark when one of our colleagues, Republican colleagues, has decided to shut down the FAA. That's an example. And lost in the doing of that $2.5 billion construction projects, 87,000 American construction jobs, 3,000 FAA aviation engineers furloughed, safety analysts, career professionals in 35 states, and in my own city of Houston. I want to get on the floor and put an amendment on the floor to get that member out of the business of stopping the FAA from doing its work. $200 million per week is being lost. Nobody is saying anything because we're also not doing regular order by fooling around with the debt ceiling. Nobody can come together and act like adults and say, let's just raise the debt ceiling so the American people can go on with their business. Now we've got a member that says, my way or the highway, and shutting down the FAA. You can't run the government like this. And I think the message of the amendment that is on the floor is not that we don't respect members' personal knowledge of their states. It's just that we can't go willy-nilly and change laws just for isolated incidences. And I apologize to Mr. Weil, but you can see I'm pretty agitated about a situation where we're quietly allowing the FAA not to work. And as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, who knows what danger is around because the FAA is not functioning? Who knows what jeopardy we're putting for seniors and students and families and people trying to buy a home because we're fooling around with the debt ceiling? So I just think we're in a pattern here. Do what you want to do and forget the heck of the American people and forget that we live in a big country and that we should be for all of the people. And if we need safety on our waterways, we need to find a way to work through our issues. I don't like the way individuals were handled. I agree on that issue. But I certainly don't like the way we're handling our business with the debt ceiling when we are literally putting ourselves on the jeopardy. And I encourage the president to do anything he needs to do to save the American people and to be able to move forward so that we don't lose all of our resources and opportunities for the Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security recipients of America. And I hope he stands up and recognizes this is a ridiculous position to be in when the FAA is not even functioning, and my Bush Intercontinental Airport can't even continue doing its construction work, and the people who need the work are thrown out on the streets because they can't work because one lone member wants to get up and talk about the FAA and foolishness about not putting small airports and not allowing our airport employees or our employees such as air traffic controllers and others to be able to confer about the quality of work issues. So I would just suggest that you might be able to find a solution, Mr. Young. I know you know all of the issues about that. We have a lot of water from where I come from. I think Mr. Dix has put forth a perfect question and then an answer to the idea of whether or not your amendment or language would have a far-reaching impact beyond Mr. Weil and the unfortunate behavior of two individuals that I understand may not be here. Let's look at this holistically as we need to look at this nation. Let's come together as adults representing the American people. And I thank the gentleman for the time. And is there any time that you want? And I'm happy to yield back by asking for all the support for Mr. Dix's amendment. I yield back.
Time of the gentlelady has expired. Members are again reminded to direct their comments to the chair, not to each other. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Alaska, Mr. Young. Those in favor say aye. Gentleman is exactly right. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Washington, Mr. Dix. Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Aye. Those opposed to the amendment say no. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I ask for a recorded vote.